Joining me right now is our AccuWeather lead long-range expert meteorologist, Paul Paslock. You know, Paul, you and the team have been diving through the numbers. You've started thinking about the spring well in advance. You know, it's interesting when you're a long-range forecaster, Paul, you're always about 3 to 6 months out from where we are right now. And let's talk about the spring forecast and specifically the severe weather that we're going to look at here. And what you've done is you've kind of broke it up in the early and late spring. Let's talk about what we're going to be expecting here in the early spring.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of difference between the two graphics we're going to show, except I think two spots to watch. The Great Lakes, first of all. Last year, the lakes were open. It was much warmer. We had more early activity from the upper Midwest all the way into the Northeast. I think this year the difference is that it's going to be cooler. The lakes have more ice compared to last year at this time, and so that's going to have a stability factor, keeping down the amount of severe weather there. Also, high pressure in the southwest. It's going to be back and forth, expanding and then decreasing during the month of March. But when that high starts to take over later on, we'll show you on the next graphic, that probably will be a dominant feature as well. And we're focusing this year more on the Mississippi Valley than Tornado Alley.
Let's talk about late spring. You're talking about the high pressure system. Again, Paul, it shifts, but it looks like it's a little stronger. But some minor changes here as we start talking about severe weather getting, let's say, west of I-35 into the traditional Tornado Alley.
Yeah, it looks like what you're going to see as you get later into the spring, that area of high pressure in the southwest, the drought factor, the heat factor, expanding that high out and putting kind of a lid on the development of storms. We're not going to get the good moisture out of the Gulf heading in that direction often like we saw late last spring into the early summer. So that means that the dry lines will focus their attention farther east and start to ignite later on during the period. And that puts East Texas, eastern Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, the eastern side of Tornado Alley, just on the edges, and more so over Arkansas, Missouri, and the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley right now. So that's where the good moisture is going to be. Keep in mind, those Gulf waters have really recovered. They're very warm, and I think that is going to have a big impact on the amount of severe weather we see. Whether it's tornadoes or more hail-producing storms, that's a tough call at this point. But with that upper-level jet stream overhead, that warm, moist tongue of air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, look out right there in the Mississippi and Tennessee Valley this year.
When you compare the area this year compared to last, what was striking to me is that we're going back farther east. Not that the Tornado Alley is not going to get any severe weather, but you all are thinking that the area that gets the most severe weather is back in more the mid-south and the Tennessee Valley.
That's exactly right, Bernie. The thing is that, and this is dangerous too, because a lot of times in this area, the tornadoes tend to come at night too as well. Right. I mean, we see a lot of nighttime tornadoes, and that is the worst time period to when people are sleeping that you could be hit. And so this is a dangerous situation, I think, setting up, especially as we get into mid-April and May. And that's when temperatures actually will be even a lot warmer. We think later in April and May that this will contribute to some very strong events that do take place. In the meantime, before that, one thing I'm going to throw in there, Bernie, we're still watching the polar vortex, because the polar vortex can cause a large area of stability and hold back severe weather. That effect would be more likely in late March, early April, if it has an impact here, holding down the severe weather. But once it goes away, later on in April and May, things could start really getting out of hand in this region.
All right, AccuWeather long-range meteorologist Paul Paslock. Paul, great insight. Thanks.